The Newsday continues here on One News Now Business. I'm Diego Castro. Here are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate fronts. The Bangko Sentral says it will only consider rate cuts if inflation settles within target. BSP Governor Eli Remolona says the Monetary Board is unlikely to cut rates in the next few months. He says inflation must first settle at the midpoint of the 2 to 4% target band before they could even discuss possible rate cuts. However, the BSP chief notes that they still have to consider other factors like inflation expectations before easing. Remolona says the Philippines is still not out of the woods, with the El Niño phenomenon feared to bring possible supply shocks. The central bank expects inflation to average 6% this year. The country's balance of payments swings back to a deficit in November. Data from the Bangko Sentral shows that the country's payments position stood at a deficit of $216 million. That's a reversal from the $1.5 billion surplus recorded in October. However, the November deficit is narrower than the $756 million gap in October 2023, and the smallest since the $57 million in August. A deficit means more funds fled the economy than what went in, while a surplus shows more money funneled into the country. The central bank says the latest figure reflects outflows arising from the national government's payments of its foreign currency debt obligations. Union Bank Chief Economist Ruben Carlo Asuncion says a stronger peso and improved trade balance may have helped in narrowing the deficit. Analysts say the Development Budget Coordination Committee's latest revision to the 2024 growth outlook is too insignificant. Recently, the DBCC narrowed next year's GDP growth target to 6.5 to 7.5% from 6.5 to 8% previously. However, the DBCC kept this year's goal at 6 to 7%. Economist Leonardo Lanzona Jr. said that the adjustment is meager and that it's almost meaningless to even make the revision. Ibon Foundation Executive Director Sani Africa likewise said the lower end of the target should have also been revised. Growth forecasts of most multilateral institutions do not meet the lower end of the DBCC's target range for 2024. These include the World Bank, IMF, and the ADB. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. President Bongbong Marcos has signed into law the record 5.768 trillion peso national budget for next year. The signing of the General Appropriations Act came a week after Congress approved and ratified the bill. In a speech after the signing, Marcos reminded government officials to spend the money judiciously and efficiently, meaning avoid red tape.
The most important budget commandment that we must always heed. We are working for the people, not for ourselves. We are working for the country, not for ourselves.
Next year's budget is 9.5% higher than this year's 5.3 trillion peso budget. Safe to say it's only going to get bigger from here on. For 2025, the government said it would propose a budget north of 6 trillion pesos. Leading the agencies with the biggest budget allocation is DepEd, which asked for 758 billion pesos. Other agencies topping the list are the Departments of National Defense, Agriculture, and Public Works and Highways. After the appointment of Rafael Consing Jr. as head of the Maharlika Investment Corporation, 4 new directors of the MIC were sworn in on Wednesday. They are Vicky Castillo Tan, Andrew Jerome Gan, Herman Lichauco, and Roman Felipe Reyes. Tan is a long-time Asian Development Bank officer and has also worked for different banks, investment, and financial institutions. Gan has experience in domestic and international companies and is currently serving as a member of the Board of Directors, the Audit Committee, and the Compensation Committee of Capital Markets Integrity Corporation. Lichauco is senior partner at the Sigyon Reyna, Montesillo, and Ongshaco law offices, and also served as president of Gemarvic Holdings Incorporated. Reyes is a current director of the Radio Philippines Network, Pampanga Sugar Development, the All Asian Counter Trade, Philippine Geothermal Production, and Converge ICT Solutions. Reyes is also the chairman and founding partner of Reyes Takandong and Company. The central bank fears that inflation will continue to be a big problem next year, no thanks to the El Niño phenomenon. Various surveys showed rising prices was, in fact, the top concern of Filipinos this year. Shaila Francisco with a report.
In 2023, consumers had been struggling to deal with rising prices of petroleum and basic goods left and right. That's why in the Pahayag year-end survey released by Publicus Asia, the economy and inflation, or the rate of price increases, are the primary concerns of Filipinos this year. The survey showed that 15% of Filipinos for each of the two categories believe that President Marcos should focus his attention on solving these issues. Official figures though show that inflation has been slowing since September. But the Bangko Sentral itself admitted that this trend could end come 2024. The BSP explains that this will be the result of higher fares and the increase in minimum wages. These factors could even be exacerbated by the threat of a stronger El Niño that is seen to last until the second quarter of 2024. The BSP estimates that the strong episode of El Niño would translate to an additional 0.02 percentage points in the monthly inflation rate. This could affect the supply of goods and power rates, especially in the first quarter of 2024.
If there are further supply shocks, then it makes it all harder. In our analysis, first quarter might be bad, The first quarter of 2024 might be bad. Q2, maybe. Q2 El Niño is 50-50, in our judgment.
But for the Federation of Free Farmers, El Niño will have minimal effect on agriculture by the first quarter of next year. The fear, however, is that farmlands will start to be impacted if the strong effects of El Niño last until June. With rice, the El Niño could affect harvest by October or November of next year. This could also bring up prices of the staple. With corn, the group warns that production could decrease by August or September.
Either hindi makapagtanim yung mga farmers or madidelay yung planting nila, and that will affect the harvest and the supply later during the year.
If prices of corn, which is used to feed poultry animals, increase, it could translate to higher prices of chicken and pork meat. The FFF says water pumps and rain harvesting systems could help in strong water for farmlands. But
sa lawak ng effect ng El Nino, that will not suffice. No, and at saka mga water impounding na ganyan, pag hindi maganda yung pagkagawa, mag-evaporate din yung water. So hindi rin magtatagal.
Defense Secretary Gubot Teodoro says the El Nino Task Force has already laid out plans and projects to mitigate the impact of the dry spell. Shaila Francisco, we are One News.
And those are the top business stories of the hour. I'm Jago Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News. All sides, all the time.